What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Mailbag time here on the show. I answer the questions that you guys asked during our live show every single Thursday at 4 Eastern. So tune in next week if you missed this week's. But we got some questions to answer from the chat and via Super Chat. So let's start with this first question coming in here from Margin Jammy. Okay. Who would be your next ideal, but in parentheses, realistic defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator? Does AVP leave after this year? And who would you want at OC? So we're looking for 3 replacements right there. I'll start with defensive coordinator because we put a lot of time and effort into Joe Woods' replacements. If Evero, which is the DC right now in Denver, becomes available because the next coach comes in, he brings his own casting crew with him, and Evero's out the door for whatever reason, that would be the number one hire. I used to dream about Brandon Staley getting fired from the Chargers because they hired Sean Payton and then maybe hire Brandon Staley. But coming down to earth a little bit, there's some good DB coaches. The one in Seattle, Carl Scott, he's been getting a lot of attention lately, so that's definitely a name to keep an eye on for. Jim Leonard has also been getting some buzz and some attention. Evero is my ideal. Realistic, check back with me after the season once I know who's been fired. Special teams coordinator, hand up. I haven't done my research on Mike Priefer replacement, so I don't have a good name for you right at this moment for that, but I'll get back to you on that one. I don't think AVP is going anywhere, so I'm not really looking at AVP replacements either. Thank you for the super chat, though, Margin. Joshua Miller next up on the show. Trade D. Watts. No. I'm not going to finish reading this. Trade Deshaun Watson for David. No. Hard no. Moving on. Josh, I love you, but that's not one of your better takes. Tyler Becker, next one up. No, Brown Tiger. No, we got a couple questions to get to here. So let's start with, we want to go to the audience, hashtag Browns. Okay, so we got some questions coming in from the audience right now. We'll start with AFX Apocalypse. Do you think Scotty Miller could be your speedster? He would probably be cheap. Scotty Miller would definitely fill that mold and what I've talked about of, we've discussed maybe DeAndre Hopkins or something. This team is not a DeAndre Hopkins away from going over the top. They've got a DeAndre Hopkins type of wide receiver in Amari Cooper, right? A big body frame. They need a speedy slot guy, and that would be Scotty Miller. Mecole Hardman, I think, in realistic options, kind of fits that mold the best, and he's on the market. So if Mecole Hardman can come to Cleveland, that would be a really good signing, I believe. Darko Petrovic. How much money do the Browns free up if they restructure everyone that is eligible? I was reading something like $90 million. Is that right? So right now, Cleveland has a little over $3 million in cap space. You can restructure Deshaun Watson's contract, right? Move a lot of this money into signing bonuses, and that would open up money. I believe I saw the number for Watson was $35 million. If you do the same for Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, you can get up there. What I'm not so sold on is if you're going to go into Jimmy Haslam's office and go, I know we've just lost, had losing seasons the last 2 years, but we need more money to spend. And in order to do that, I'm going to need you to pay all of these players more right now than later. That might be a tough sell for Andrew Berry. The cap is a myth. You can always move money around. You can always restructure contracts. I don't think they're going to get up to $90 million. But I could see them getting up to 35 or 40 million. Just a simple man. No chance of the Browns pursuing Sean Payton, right? I'm gonna go with no chance. Yeah, I don't think it's a non-zero chance. I think there might be a tiny bit of a chance if the Browns shock us all and they fire Kevin Stefanski because they lose the last 2 games of the season, and Sean Payton wants to return to the NFL, and the Saints somehow sneak into the playoffs because Dennis Allen won the last couple of games. And for whatever reason, the Chargers and the Cowboys and maybe even the Broncos job doesn't land with Sean Payton because those coaches don't get fired or Denver goes a different direction. And I don't know. If all those things happen, that's quite amazing, quite a parlay. Cleveland with Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett would look like a very tempting job for Sean Payton. But I would not bet on it whatsoever. Levi Mayfield, what's going to happen with OBJ? OBJ is most likely going to sign somewhere this March. It looks like his physical was not maybe as good as he would have hoped it would have been. The Cowboys sort of leaked that, and all the teams sort of backed off the OBJ hype. I'm guessing he signed somewhere in March. Don't have a good idea of how many years it's going to be, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. I don't think it's going to be long term. I don't think it's going to be a big splash money contract either. Thick Spoon YouTube. Do you think Vic Fangio is a realistic replacement for Joe Woods? Vic Fangio runs a 3-4 defense, so just kind of keep that in mind that the Browns defense right now with Myles Garrett is not really geared to him being more of an outside linebacker. Vic Fangio still is one of the best defensive coordinators in football the last 20 or so years. So, yeah, if Joe Woods is fired and Vic Fangio is hired, I'm not going to be losing sleep over it. I'll be very excited about it. I will be curious to see how he completely retools this defense that has been 4-3 for as long as I can remember right now. So, very interested to see if Vic Fangio came to Cleveland, how he would work with the Browns defense. But he would be a very good replacement. I have heard some buzz of him being tied to Sean Payton, though, and going wherever Sean Payton is hired. Listen, free agency, though, draft, news, rumors, all that offseason buzz and coverage, we do it best here at the channel. So subscribe if you have not already and hit that sub button. We got the next question coming in from Arena of Idea Racing. Should the Browns re-sign Hunt? No. Kareem Hunt has not been good this year. And that's a bummer. I really thought he would thrive with Deshaun Watson. I thought he would help move along this Browns offense with Jacoby Brissett. And it looks like Kareem Hunt is just becoming, unfortunately, like all running backs, not aging like a fine wine. Unfortunately, it's Father Time killing Kareem Hunt. AFX Apocalypse. Do you think Fletcher Cox would be a good pickup? I believe he will be a free agent. Yeah, Fletcher Cox from the Eagles will be a free agent, along with Javon Hargrave. Those are two older guys. And if we have learned anything from Andrew Berry, he does not like older free agents. Now, maybe that changes because his plan at defensive tackle did not work this year. So maybe he decides to go the opposite direction. Hey, if Fletcher Cox wants to come along for a cheap one-year deal and they sign him in August because no one else gave him any attention in March and he takes a vet minimum with a lot of incentives, sure, I'm all for it. Little Beam next up on the show. Between DeAndre Hopkins and Davante Adams, who would you rather come here? Ooh. Davante Adams, right? That's the right answer. Davante Adams is not having a spectacular year this year with the Raiders, and he's going to finish with over 100 receptions and 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns. I say not having a fantastic year as a bit of sarcasm because Davante Adams is just that good, that his down years are better than most other people's great years. And I don't think you can even say he's having a down year. He's just not, making the big plays for the Packers down late in a 13-4 regular season. So I'm going to go Davante Adams. You're welcome to disagree. Let me know in the comments who you would rather have. Hayden Fink next up. Are these next two games must-wins for Stefanski to keep his job? It sounds like Stefanski is safe no matter what, right? Browns fans, Brown media, Browns Twitter might like to try and stir the pot a little bit and act like Stefanski's seat is a bit warmer than it really is. Mike Florio has said that his seat is warm to quite warm. All in all, I think the Browns are not moving on from Kevin Stefanski after 6 games with Deshaun Watson. He was a big part in landing Watson, and I just don't see them pulling the cord on him after just 6 short weeks. But what do you think? Does Stefanski need to win out to stay? If he were to drop these next 2 games, go into the offseason on a losing streak, kind of a bad taste in Jimmy and D. Haslam's mouth and Andrew Berry's too, does Stefanski get fired unexpectedly? No one saw Brian Flores getting fired last year for the most part, so these firings do happen once in a while. Lovie Smith for the Bears. I remember he got fired after a 10-6 season, so it's not a non-0% chance, but I don't think it's very likely. I got more questions of yours to answer in just a second, but today's sportsbook partner, BetUS, has an awesome deal for the Dog Pound. When you go to chatsports.com/bet and you enter promo code Browns125, when you do that, let's say you put $100 in, they're going to match that and give you an additional 25%. So that'd be $225 to play with. Make all of your picks, the NFL postseason, college football, NBA, NHL, Polish basketball, whatever it is. make it at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125. Another question coming in from TRD. What would you rank each of these Browns rookies this season? Good question. Browns rookies this season. Martin Emerson is 1, 2, and 3. Sorry. Martin Emerson's number 1. I'm gonna go through all the rookies right now, right? You had Martin Emerson, you have Cade York, you have Perrion Winfrey, you have Michael Woods, you have Jerome Ford, you have Dawson Deaton. He was a center. He got hurt in preseason. Those 5, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. I'm going to curse myself out later. But Martin Emerson, 1. Jerome Ford for kick returns, number 2. Michael Woods, number 3. Cade York, number 4, just because of week 1. And Perrion Winfrey, 5. Winfrey's come along nicely lately, but the boneheaded stuff early in the season is a big bummer. So those I'm going to go with. Dawson Deaton, he got hurt. He was the center. Isaiah Thomas, silly me. That's the other guy from Oklahoma I'm forgetting. Isaiah Thomas, probably back. Oh my gosh, Alex Wright. Wow, I might lose my job. I completely forgot the second guy. Well, that rechanges things. I'm going to go Alex Wright in like 3rd. So one more time. Martin Emerson, number 1. I'm going to go Jerome Ford, 2. I'll go Alex Wright, 3. I'll go Cade York, 4, just because of that 1 field goal. 5 is Michael Woods, 6 is Perrion Winfrey, and 7 is Dawson Deaton. That sounds more right. All right. Appreciate the question, though. Sorry it took me a long time to answer. Marcus Smith, any chance we lose Garrett this year? You know, if you've noticed, I have not done a video about trade Myles Garrett because I really don't want to, but there have been one too many little blog boys who write about selling everything and trading Myles Garrett. Stop it and get some help. You are not trading Myles Garrett. I am a big believer of never say never in the NFL, but I will say no to this. Myles Garrett is not getting traded. If Myles Garrett gets traded, I'm bringing it back. I'm doing a polar plunge in Lake Erie. I am that confident. Last question coming in from the Brown Tiger. Likelihood of Brian Flores hired as Browns DC. How many Bernie heads? I wish I included Brian Flores in the earlier question of this mailbag about DC replacements for Joe Woods. I would love Brian Flores as a DC. Bernie heads? I'm going to go with just 2. I would go to 3 if I've heard even if I even saw one tweet of the Browns liking Brian Flores or just thinking Brian Flores is a funny guy or something like that. I've heard 0 buzz between the 2, so I got to keep it at 2. I do think Joe Woods is fired, and I'm sure Brian Flores would be a very appealing candidate for the Browns. Now, we're going to have a watch party this Sunday for our Browns-Commanders game, so if you are tuning in for it, type me down in the comment section below. This is the end of the video. This is a great way for me to see who the real ones are at the channel, who watch the entire video all the way through. So type me if you've gotten to this point and you're tuning in for our Browns-Commanders watch party on Sunday.